Hello everyone, this is the self-awareness workshop that was held in Neoterics UK on Easter, yes. So this is something that I've been working on for quite a long time, not this specifically, but the materials that go into this, the materials that go into it. I hope to do more things like it in the future. I have a whole book full of stuff that I want to do, yeah. So, a couple of things before you go into this. One, you can't, because of the material and the way that it's delivered, you can't really skip like halfway into it and try and listen to it like that, because you are not going to get the right message from it. And some things are quite important. It's quite important that these things are explained in a chronological order. So, don't skip through. Don't just go in a random point in the thing. It's really important. Well, it's not that important. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But I think it would be good if you watched it in chronological order. Another thing is, I know the majority of you are probably not going to, but please watch the whole thing, because yes, there are some points where I blabber and waffle a bit, just like this part, but it's interesting. It has good points. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? But to get the most out of it, I would watch it till the end. There was one person in there that was there the whole time. Only like 5 people showed up over the whole thing, but I am hoping that more people can watch the YouTube video and actually get something, and actually extract something, and become something from listening to this. If you have any questions, hop in Neoterics. If you're already in Neoterics, great. Feel free to DM me, whatever, I don't care. Very cool, thank you. Oh, I gotta press the button to stop recording. Yeah, okay, here it is. Hello, welcome. So, I mean, yeah. So, self-awareness workshop, we're going to have Socratic discussion. We're going to have stuff about the implications of self-awareness. We're going to have stuff about contemplation and a bunch of other stuff. Hard to explain before I'm actually doing it, I'm aware. But, so, yes. An important thing to note here is that this is not dogma, right? I'm going to say a lot of things that are going to be very, I guess, contentious, and I'm not saying this isn't a lecture about definite 100% objective facts. This is, I'm throwing ideas at you, and then I'm giving you the time to think about the ideas. I'm not just telling you facts and saying you have to believe this, because there's a big part of the thing, right, is obviously, self-awareness is about exercising your mind, so you can understand things. Hold on. So yeah, that's the whole idea, basically. So again, there is no dogma. I'm not trying to tell you facts. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. Everything I present here, even if it's presented as a fact, I'm presenting it to you with the knowing that hopefully you are going to, if you disagree with it or if you agree with it, you're going to think about it and you're going to dwell on it for a while until you come to your own conclusions on the thing. Sort of like an AI. I give you prompts, you think about it, and then there is an output in the form of a belief or whatever. So, moving on, before we start the thing properly, this is a Socratic method thing, because we're not doing this the mainstream school way where I just throw loads of information at you and ask you to write it down later. This is a Socratic thing. So if you have any questions, if you have any ideas, if you have anything that comes up in your mind that you want to tell me, and do. Socratic discussion, Socratic method, that kind of thing. Okay. So, the first thing that I'm going to go over is the three realms of thought, basically, because there is another one but I think it's silly, so I won't go over it. You got philosophical, you got political, and you got spiritual. Those are the three major realms in which important thinking is done. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about overlap. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about are only in one. Some of the things are only in others. But those are the only things, and everything reasonable and everything thoughtful can be put into those realms of thought. The fourth one is like social and material stuff. So like movies, cooking, talking to people, social situations, social politics. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. It's stupid. You can go and read a book written by like an alpha male type if you want to learn about that. Don't do that. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's stupid, and I think it shouldn't be talked about with any philosophical rigor, because it doesn't actually matter that much. So yeah, the implications of self-awareness are very big, because it influences the way that you think about things, because it influences the way that you do things. And there's not many good examples for this, because there can't be examples for this, because when you have a low self-awareness, you're going to do stupid stuff that people with a reasonable self-awareness can't predict. So I think the main thing that comes out of a low self-awareness is apathy. Why does this matter? You know, even if it's not a philosophical anatomy, even if when they think about these things, even if when they think about politics, when they think about this, it's not apathetic. If what they actually do about politics is apathetic, apathy is a very big thing. It's not just, oh, I don't care about this. You know, it can be thinly veiled. It can be thinly veiled as politics, right? You have people who are like, oh, don't put politics in this Discord server. Don't put religion in this Discord server. Don't think about anything while you're in this Discord server. And it sort of bleeds out. It sort of bleeds over into real life. So when you think about, like, I would have to say that the one thing in the UK specifically that has done the most damage to the political system is apathy, right? Because people don't want to do any research. People don't do anything. People just say, oh, okay, this newspaper says that the Conservatives are really good and that Labour's really bad and they're evil. And maybe they used a buzzword. Maybe they said that Labour was racist. Maybe they said that Labour was a lefty loon or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to read any more into this. I'm just going to read the headline, and then I'm going to go and put my vote in for the Conservative Party. And that's a problem, because we have people who are apathetic about actually knowing stuff. But I find it really hard to actually explain apathy, because it's just a problem. Nothing good comes out of apathy. Yes. Okay. So there is no dogma here. I'm not telling you stuff that you have to believe or that you even need to believe. I'm giving you ideas, and I want you to think about them and then come to your own conclusions on those ideas. So I'm going to read a part from the book. And I'm going to... So I'm just going to read a list of ideas. And these are ideas that I think have permeated through our society. And it's not... These ideas have permeated through society in a subconscious way. People don't think about these. If you think about any of these, you will understand why they are not needed. But these come in a subconscious way. They are passed down generation to generation, and they are big problems. So I'm going to read off a list of sentiments that are widely accepted in society today. Whether people know it or not, they are widely accepted in society today. And I want you to think about these, because these are all awful things, awful ideas, and they have permeated through our society. So people are not all the same. People can be better than other people, or higher on the pyramid, depending on factors like socioeconomic status, age is important in this, race, popularity, and progression in career. People are inherently evil or greedy. It's a natural impulse to be greedy, and people do not care if their greed indirectly or directly affects others, even if the process or even the progress of society, an organization, or even a country. All attempts to build a fairer society will fail, as all people are greedy and unequal. This is something that I can imagine as anyone who cares all about politics gets a lot. Oh, but people are inherently greedy. It's human nature. It's just not true. There is no... I would argue that I would argue the opposite. I would argue that humans are built with a certain degree of altruism, and that altruism, can... Obviously, people are not born 100%, generous and whatever, but that altruism can grow instead of be pushed down oh, go and get another slice of cake. Ooh. And it comes from childhood and the way that we educate children, which is another big thing. Anyway, point 2. Social events like parties, family gatherings, board game nights, etc. are good for us because they make us feel good. We should try and minimize time alone for recreation, work on personal projects, and constructive thinking, as it is unhealthy and not pleasurable. Basically, and I know, a bit hypocritical, I run the game nights in this Discord server, but it's because the rest of the stuff that we do is like this. So I'm not saying that we should give up all games, give up all social events, but doing stuff on our own, doing stuff constructively, just to, be with ourselves and dwell on thoughts that will occasionally pop into your head, that's just good. That's just generally good for your self-awareness. Now I can understand why, when people are on the news and they're speaking they drink 4 glasses of water. Okay. Academic schooling is good for our children. We should encourage our children to go to school and listen to the teacher. The current system of schooling is good and it does not indoctrinate our children. This sentiment is so... There's a guy on TikTok at Post-Capitalist Pedagogy. Ooh, lovely. Great guy. But the academic system of schooling teaches people how to learn in a specific way that is only good for tests, basically. It's only good for grades, it's only good for marks. And this is a real problem because we have people growing up who only do the bare minimum because they don't actually care about learning, and they can't actually learn in a reasonable way because they've been taught under the academic school system, which is inherently not good. Yeah, and the next one. Alternative schooling is a hassle and not good for our children. We should keep our children in the mainstream system and punish our children when they complain. There are lots of alternative ways of schooling. Unschooling is good. Waldorf is good. And I know lots of people hate that, but feel free to argue with me about it. I have resources about that if anyone is interested, because it's very, very good and people don't like it because there's lots and lots of lies about it from... it even dates back to Nazi Germany. There's a crazy history of Waldorf. But yeah, I would, if I had a child, I would never, ever, ever put them in the mainstream school system. And the reason, one argument against this is, but I don't have time. But it's just get time. I don't know. Okay, next one. Punitive measures in our prisons are good. Prisoners are there because they have broken the law and they should be treated like scum. We should not try and rehabilitate them, as the rule of the law should always be respected. This ideology makes people, 1, not question the law, and 2, again, enforces that hierarchy. I am better than you, you are better than me thing. When in reality, it's just people who've done stuff. And whether it was right or wrong, they get banged up in these crazy, inhumane places. And yeah, it's just not ideal. And we literally know that having prisoners in better conditions and having them actually rehabilitate themselves works. We know that there was a lower reoffending rate when we do that. Oh, that's all of my water gone. How am I going to survive? But yeah, we know that alternative prison systems work. And the next one, not everything is deep. Not everything is as deep as people make it down to be. What people do, think, and feel is not important. What the world is, how it works, and what it does is not important either. It would be better if we stopped overcomplicating things and just if we were happy. This is 1, bad philosophy, and 2, a grease-oiled metal slide to apathy. When you start using these arguments, it's just not. Things are inherently complicated. You know, everything is complicated. A Brazil nut, for example. Who picked the Brazil nut? Does it have a worm in it? How hard is it? Should I be eating this Brazil nut? Is it ethical to eat the Brazil nut? Is it ethical to pick the Brazil nut? Everything can be analysed, and everything should be analysed in a philosophical and spiritual scientific way. Because when we stop thinking about things, we fall into apathy, and apathy causes lots and lots of problems. Anyway, next one. Money is a real thing, and it should be the end goal of our pursuits. Those who push it away are lost, and those who seek it are respectable. Money is an interesting subject because it's something that's just not real, and we as a society love to be like, oh, you know, cryptocurrency, it's the fakest thing in the world. Cryptocurrency is more real than money, right? Because cryptocurrency is backed up in code. Cryptocurrency exists because the code exists and because of how the code works. Money is little pieces of paper saying, I promise to give you this amount of money. And money is actually gold in the Bank of England somewhere, or it's somewhere. And you can't get that gold. You can't do anything with the gold. But it's there. It's definitely there. Like, the current system of money that we have now is just a bunch of promises saying, this is real and I will give you money. So, again, controversial, but cryptocurrency is inherently realer than real money, fiat. But, I don't know. Also, don't support central bank digital currencies. They're a really bad idea and they will, police state. Whatever. Last one. Freedom is misused when we give it to people. Illegal immigrants will flood our borders if we let them, and the youth will make up identities and other things for attention. The idea that people misuse freedom is a really, really bad one. People are always operating on their bet. They're always going to something that people are always working to something that they consider to be good, whether that's just for them, but people are always working for that. So if we are in a society that makes the youth feel like it has to lie, and I don't think that people are making stuff up just for attention. I don't think but we as a society, and we as a global society, should be treating people to use freedom for the correct things, maybe overuse it in some circumstances, but use it for the correct things. Use it while it's there. Freedom is a verb and all that. And I think we're past the point. I think we're past lying as a society, which I know is a very bold statement to make, but why do we? Why? What's the point? But yeah. One last one. Political ideology that is slightly far away from the centre is dangerous and should not be entertained. This is a sentiment I see coming from everywhere, and it's not very good. The entire political system, the entire system of media, everything right now in the UK is dedicated to squashing political groups that are outside of, slight left, slight right of the mainstream. And also, something that you may have noticed as well is the centre is moving further and further right, which is just something interesting to put out there. But I can imagine some people nobody in this specific call, but some people are probably but this is what I was raised on. But the thing is, we as people, we as a society, and this is true for basically everyone alive right now is that you were raised by parents who wanted an easy day-to-day life instead of a free-thinking, well-rounded child. You were taught by a school system that was designed to create obedient workers who knew naught about the reality of their situation, and you are ruled over by a government that will not only let thousands die of hunger, they will let corporations increase prices and blame it on a foreign war with no repercussions. You as an individual, I'm talking to everyone here, you are then dragged down back into the bucket of crabs by your friends, and any attempt, independent action or thinking is shot down as nonsense. You know, for the most part, parents want to make children an easy child. That's the ideal, right? You know, and your school wants to be an obedient child, a good listener, and your government wants you to be a quiet, submissive, good citizen, and nobody questions it. Nobody really questions it. Just going to read a little line from the book here, forget everything you know and bask in freedom, because it's so ingrained into us that it's ridiculous. Whew. Anyway, any questions? Right, type out your questions. I'm going to get some more water. I will be back. Give me questions. Okay, I'm back. No questions, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so, and this leads me perfectly onto my next point. Let me pull out the book here. It's about the time that we spend. It's about what we do. Because we shouldn't be really spending, like, where is it? Oh, there's nothing. Okay. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that we, as a society, have devalued just doing stuff alone. And by doing this, by letting people from cooking alone, from doing productive stuff alone, and from just engaging in constructive thinking alone, we have gotten rid of the power of the masses to intellectualize and to rationalize ideas and to think about things. So again, like, if you're even like, I would have to say that watching a movie is like one of the worst things that you can do, because you know you can't be watching a movie if you're not looking at it and listening to it, and it has to fully envelop you, right? And I'm not saying you should never watch movies, but like, there are people who go home and all they do is watch TV, and it's just like, this is why the majority of people in this country voted Conservative, because they don't care, because they just want to watch movies. They just want, yeah. But another thing is, when you are with friends, or when you're just with other people in general, and what you're doing is not constructive, or you're not talking about anything interesting, what happens then is you can't really think about things constructively when you're with people and you're just doing stuff, unless what you are doing is thinking about things constructively. And again, I'm not saying never ever talk to anyone, never be around anyone, but I'm just saying that it's good to have time alone and time to actually think about things. It's good to have that, otherwise you're not thinking about things, you're not rationalizing things. Yeah. Any questions? No questions. Okay. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hold on. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to drop them at me the moment they pop into your head, because Socratic discussion and all that. Anyway, on to the next thing. Is that people like, people really, really, really like, you know, and this is a little anecdote, right? We went camping with my mum and a bunch of friends, and what we did there, it was quite incredible. Basically, I bought one of my books to show one of my mum's friends, and you know, it was one of the graphic ones. So she opens it and she's like, "Oh wow, you should put that one on a poster. That one looks really good." Oh yeah, I agree with that. And the thing that was on it was, if you put down a person, if you say that if you deny the personhood of, I can't remember actual quote. But if you deny the personhood of someone, then you are denying the personhood of everyone, right? And then, we're walking by this river. No, it was like a big lake. We're walking by this big lake, and her son is kicking around a ball, and I will always remember this. She calls her son a half human, and this is like, okay, love, And this brings me on to my next point, that you need to be constantly checking your theory. And this comes back to self-awareness. If you're stupid, then you can't do this. But if you have the capacity to be self-aware, then you can be not constantly, but checking your theory and checking what you're doing in your everyday life with your theory. I call it theory checking. Check your theory, because you can believe something and then just act the other way because you don't really realize that what you are doing goes against those core beliefs. And this is very, 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 very important. Yeah, give me 1 second. So, here we go. So the next thing that this brings me to is this is hard to explain, really, but everyone has so you have all the stuff that you have all the stuff that you know in your waking conscious mind, but you also have your subconscious knowledge base, which is hard to explain, really hard to explain, but it's basically like the messages and the ideas that you take in and your understanding of how the world works. That is your subconscious knowledge base, and that influences your political, philosophical, and spiritual views and ideas. And the subconscious knowledge base is something that you have to keep in check, otherwise you will start to believe stuff that is not very good because you haven't thought about it. And I do this a lot. But yeah, I do this a lot. But what's it called? It's good to rationalize those ideas again by spending time just alone, constructively thinking. It's what? Okay, tidying up your subconscious knowledge base, and it's also an important thing that you don't let stuff slide into your subconscious knowledge base without you really noticing. And that is how the alt-right pipeline works, right? Because you have people who are you slowly pour a bunch of olive oil on the metal slide, and then when you watch the final Ben Shapiro video, you go down and you become a bigot, right? And it's slow infiltration of your subconscious knowledge base, because that's how it works. And on to my next point. When you really think about things with your subconscious knowledge base, when you're really, really thinking, and when you're intellectualizing and rationalizing stuff and reinforcing your ideas through constructive thinking and through a bunch of other stuff, you basically, hold on a minute, you will find quite a lot of things that you previously thought would okay, maybe a bit bad, but whatever. You will find these things to be abhorrent, because we've sort of been blinded as a society, because the society and schools and the government, the main thing there is to make it so you as everyone, as individuals, does not think critically about their surroundings, about everything. So you will find that most things in the West are, for lack of a better word, evil. And it's very annoying when you see people almost walking off the cliff into apathy and into conservatism. Is that the conservatism? Yeah, I don't know. So this is another thing. This goes into slightly spiritual ideas, but whatever. This So the idea of the one, right? This idea is simple. It's that people are people, and you can't really take away anything from people because of what they are. Sure, mass murderer killed 20 people, no remorse. Yeah. But like, mass murderer killed 20 people, no remorse. That person inherently is almost a lesser person because they killed loads of people, right? But just because someone's younger than you, just because someone's a different race than you, just because someone is slightly different from you, it doesn't mean that they're any more or less of a person. People are one. It's not pyramid, it's not like a slight pyramid, it's a big flat line. People are people, and people are not less or more of people because of what they are, because of what age they are, because of race, socioeconomic status and all that. People are people. And again, it's through action that you become less of a person, right? But even that has its limits. Like, again, you go in, you steal some bread from a struggling family business, but that loaf of bread feeds your struggling family. So everything on a case-by-case basis, but also other stuff. But yeah, complicated to explain. Everything that I'm talking about is complicated to explain, and I could probably do whole workshops just about these individual ideas. So I'm trying to go over them in a reasonable way, right? So, another list that I'm going to read from the book. So, let me find it. Oh, did I go with that? Oh, no. Okay, but where is it? So, there's a little thing, a little idea that I came up with, which is basically, this is the way to make people apathetic, to make people believe in fake things, and to make people stay with the status quo and all that. And it's, what's it called? It's a real problem because it's used in the school system and in society. So if I had a chalkboard, if I was doing this in person and I had a chalkboard, I would pull out my chalkboard and I would draw a little stick man, and I would draw a board on top of his head, and each one of these would be a little mark. It would be a weight on the chalkboard until he's crushed and he's a member of society. So I'm just going to go over all these. Again, no dogma. I'm giving you ideas, and then you go off and think about them, and then you come to your own conclusions. Anyway, so I call this Illusionary Life and Reality of Everything. But yeah, so the first mark is being told no, because it's the perfect segue into being obedient. Because just the word no is a very interesting thing, because it's not telling you anything. It's not saying don't do this because. It's not saying, it's not intellectualizing anything. It's not anything. It is, what's it called? It's just nothing. It's conditioning, right? And yes, I do understand that in some circumstances you will want to tell children just the word no, but there are not really many circumstances where that would, like, oh, your child's running into a moving car. Yeah, I'm sure of it. But we don't need to just use the word no for everything. It depends, like, because it's used as a be-all and end-all by parents, and it is the first major trauma that quite a lot of children will go through, even if they don't realise it. And I think people don't realise how much trauma they go through as children, because society is so weird and reactionary that everyone is truth-seeking. Children find it very confusing. But anyway, there is a big difference between being told no, don't jump, between being told no and being told there are piranhas in that water, they will eat you alive if you jump in. Like, And another thing is, this is something that I noticed as well. It was a weird situation that I was in, and if you are the person that I'm talking about here, I am actually not real, so I'm not talking about you. Don't kill me, please. Thanks. But yeah, so the word no is not very good, and it sets us up for a very long process of indoctrination. And the second mark is rules, right? And it is, I'm not talking about the idea of, I'm not talking about like every single rule ever, but as a child, the rules are the authority. And there's no reason, quite a lot of the things that were rules as children are just pointless, they're nonsense. And everyone knew it, but they were the rules, so you can't speak up against the rules. And that is a microcosm of the world of society of that, and the society and law being the macrocosm. But if we don't have a say in the rules, and the rules aren't rational, why should we have to follow them? Like, why should I have to tell the government that I'm selling stuff? Stupid. We're going to skip straight to the fourth one. The fourth one is authority, and you're getting to about the age here where authority becomes something. Authority is weird because it's, humans, we are individual. And in scenarios where we are equal, it's because we choose to accept that we're not individual. Like, for example, a vicar is higher than a member of the church because the vicar has dedicated their life to the church, and everyone accepts that, right? But in the Western ideas of parenting, I'm just going to read this straight from the book. We implant the lie of parent above child or teacher above child into their heads, and if they don't obey this, we all know what happens. And if the process has been working enough, they'll start to believe this. They'll start to believe that they have superiors and that they are superior to other people. Fifth one is school, but I'm not going to talk about school because I already did. And the sixth mark is gender. You have these pointless decisions made in social situations in schools, and it's just because stupid ideas of gender are instilled into our society. It's useless, fake that are made, really. That's the best way that I can say, that's the best way that I can explain that. It's just another pointless division that we get put through. Seventh mark is money. I already talked about money, yeah. And it creates worry, it creates need, and it creates division. It is, for lack of a better word, unhealthy. Eighth mark is politics. Worry about external government scale politics, but also internal situational politics, or like local community school. The sort of like stress of progress being held back, but some other stuff. And the ninth mark is small consciousness boost. So basically, around the ages of 9 to 12, you get a small boost of consciousness that makes all of these marks, unless you completely disregard them, makes all of these ideas even more apparent in your brain. Yeah, I think that's about all of the ones that I need to go over. So Illusionary Life, that whole process of creating a citizen, takes place from one couple months after being born to 16 or 17. And the only thing that shakes this off, because it is inherently part of your subconscious knowledge base, the only thing that shakes this off is self-awareness. And this is why I'm doing this whole workshop. I'm going to put it on YouTube for everyone to listen to, because the only thing that beats societal programming and irrational nonsense in your subconscious knowledge base is self-awareness. And it is the knowledge that, it is the understanding that all these things are nonsense, because we've rationalized them and we've realized, hey, these aren't good. And next thing, we probably are going to be here for another 10 minutes. Ooh. Yeah, that's my guess. Anyway, let me find the chapter. So, something we do as a society is our schools teach information. Our schools teach information that we are supposed to remember. We get an allotted amount of information. We're not supposed to question any more than that. We get an allotted amount of information, and then we're supposed to write that information down on papers, on tests and all that. And that model is silly because you're not actually learning anything. You're learning how to take in the allotted amount of information and regurgitate it onto a paper. So you're taking in stupid information and you are regurgitating it, and you'll only need to regurgitate the information a couple of times. It's the human brain version of bloatware. I think that would be the best way to describe it. Yeah. So the shift from useless information to meaningful internal knowledge is a big thing in self-awareness, because the barbaric academic school system really loves the information. It really loves information, but learning comes in the form of knowing, understanding things, and internalizing things into your subconscious knowledge base and actually understanding, which I know, weird thing to talk about, hard to explain. Again, I could do a whole other lecture about these concepts, but I can't be bothered. I'm going to do them all, and I'm going to cover them quickly because that's the way I do things. But yeah, it's that. But this shift from information to knowledge, from info to knowing, is important, because when we shift from brainless regurgitation of information and nonsense information into a system of, actually understanding things, genuinely understanding things, and internalizing ideas and teaching in a more holistic way, so it's not just information being thrown at people, and it's not just pointless information that will never be used and interest nobody. So the implications of all of this, big implications for quite a lot of the things that I've said. Obviously, it's not dogma. Again, I'm giving you ideas, I'm giving you prompts, and you take them away, and you think about them, and you come... I'm not going to do part 2, I've decided, because it wouldn't be very useful, but basically, I give you prompts, you think about them for a while, and then you successfully rationalize an idea. That's the idea, right? But the implications of all of this are quite large, I have called the majority of the population stupid. I have, made a lot of very bold statements, but I think day by day the evidence is stacking up in my favor. And I do have resources for quite a lot of these things. Yeah. So, if anyone has any... Right. There's a final part of the thing, except for the leaving monologue. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want me to elaborate on things? If you do, press the little hand button and I'll bring you up on the stage, or put it in the stage text chat or the chat thing and the thing. I'll give you guys a minute to think about that, and if you don't, then I'll end it off. Someone's been putting clay in my water pipes. Okay. I'll take that as no questions. If any of you come up with questions or have anything you want me to elaborate on, again, it's Socratic. It's not supposed to be a one-sided thing. Obviously, if there were more people, it would be a bit more Socratic. But again, if you have any questions, if you have any anythings, feel free to DM me and I will gladly talk about it with you all. Thank you for coming, and thank you to They Never Will Find for staying for this whole thing, which has been 53 minutes long. It will be going on YouTube, so when it does, send it to everyone you've ever spoken to. Yeah. That's, again, any questions, feel free to DM me or whatever. If you would like to obtain a copy of the book that quite a lot of this stuff comes from, I can send people links to that. Yeah. Cool. That's the thing. Yeah. Cool. Goodbye, all.